Happy tax day, everybody. It is everybody's turn to give their money to the government. But before you do that, the deadline is currently about 6 hours away. You have a football podcast to listen to, and that is Perfect Spiral. We're coming at you. We're right here. We are ready. And you know what? We are 2 weeks away from the 2021 NFL Draft that will be taking place in Cleveland, Ohio. Hops to Cleveland. You got Jadeveon Clowney, which we're going to cover, and you got the 2021 NFL Draft. It's been a hell of a couple of weeks for you guys. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover one of the more underrated wide receivers in the history of the NFL, Julian Edelman retiring, and then John is going to do his best to get on me and get under my skin about the Trevor Lawrence SI live piece that came out recently, and John's smirking at me as I'm talking about this. And then in our second segment, we're going to cover the wide receivers, tight ends, and the cornerbacks position of our 2021 NFL Draft Series. And then at the very, very, very end, Perfect Spiral is going to reveal their first limited series at the end and what we have in store for the months of May, June, and July. Buckle up, put your seatbelt on, make sure that your hazards are off because this shit is about to get messy. It's Perfect Spiral, Episode 8, coming up next. Let's roll.
You play to win the game. Touchdown!
Can't wait.
And welcome, everyone. Perfect Spiral, Episode 8. It is 5:54 in the evening on April 15th. Happy tax day, everybody. John, did you file your taxes today?
I filed my taxes about 2 months ago.
Wow, so did I.
I was really on top of it this
And
year.
I got my tax return back already.
I got mine in a week.
Hops to student loans. Props to student loans. I got some of that money back.
Wow, nice.
I'm very hyped about that.
That was a fantastic intro, by the way. I
like
know I
that?
say that every week, but that was actually really good.
You know, it's funny because, and for the folks listening right now, what we do is I usually give a demo intro every time that we do this. And I never give away what I'm actually going to say. I feel like it's funny. John's like, let's roll with that. And I'm like, no, don't go. We're good, man.
it's like
Trust
he just
me,
like teases me just a little bit.
all the time. But we're here. My name is Joe Miglio, as you know, and my co-host, John McCarthy, who's sitting across from me. We are here. It has been about a month and a half of Perfect Spiral.
Yep. Our 8th episode.
Our 8th episode. We should have a big pizza party for episode 10.
Yeah, we should.
Episode 10 is going to, I'm just realizing this right now. Episode 10 is going to be our recap of the first round of the NFL Draft.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, because next week is our last part of the draft anthology.
Right.
Part 4. And then that's gonna be our recap.
Holy titties, look at that.
And then you're gonna get a little extra thing because we're doing the draft thing, the live draft
we're gonna
thing.
try to do the live stream. Look at that. Wow. Okay.
It's a big
Making
deal.
moves.
This is a
I
big
like that. As always, folks, make sure that you are following and listening to us on all of our platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Buzzsprout, which is our proud partner who allows us to do all the things that we do so you can listen to us. We also have some lower level sites like Deezer and Stitcher and all those other things. So make sure that you catch us anywhere you can. Give us those 5-star reviews and give us those follow backs and those ratings. We want everything. We want the good, we want the bad, we want the ugly. Whatever you can offer us, that's what we want. But John, let's get started here. I want to say the Trevor Lawrence stuff for last.
Okay.
Because I don't want to get heated right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, before we start, Joe, should we give a quick shout out to our friend from SI Live?
Yes, John, please. What happened this past week?
So Perfect Spiral was in our local newspaper, the SI Live, which is the Staten Island Advance. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Joseph Diamodio. You were fantastic. It was really, really great to do that interview with them. It was just a local paper, but it felt good and it was really awesome. So thank you for that.
It's nice to be recognized, and it's nice to know that what we're doing is being noticed, and that we are. Listen, as the article says, we're two guys who are just very passionate about football and love talking about it. But we work hard on this, and we do what we can to make this as good and as pleasant and as as informative as it needs to be.
And enjoyable for
Yeah,
everyone.
absolutely. So, thanks to SI Live, thanks to Joe. It was fantastic getting some more exposure. That's really all we want, especially right now during the off season. The following has, for me, has been fantastic. We've gotten off to a nice start here, probably bigger than I had thought it was going to get to.
Me too.
And it's just nice to and honestly too, I want to say something really quick before we start. The podcast community on Twitter is fantastic.
Unbelievable. Everyone's been so good.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just so nice to each other. They say social media is like a cesspool, and it is for most of the time. But for the I'll say about this, the podcast community on Twitter is pretty good.
Yeah, we've we've actually spoken to other podcasts, and just kind of like
everyone seems like
supported each other.
Yeah,
and
we're in it together.
Yeah,
we're in it together.
Nice.
So it's cool. All right, let's hit up. Let's take the JetBlue plane over to Cleveland first. Let's talk about this 1 year, $10 million deal for Jadeveon Clowney. What do you think about that, John? I think interesting move for the Browns. No risk, no reward.
It's not really much risk there. I mean, Clowney had a terrible year in Tennessee. I mean, he was partly hurt.
Thank God.
And before that, I kind of thought Clowney was a bit overrated. I thought that his season in Seattle was very weak as well. He's not. I don't see him as a dominant pass rusher. I see him as a guy who's really good against the run off the edge. But he's not a very good pass rusher. But a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about how a guy like Clowney is really, really good when he has a second fiddle with him.
Right.
And he has a second fiddle with him in
Miles Garrett. Who's probably right now in the NFL, if I had to say, he's probably the second best defensive lineman in the whole league.
Yeah.
After Donald.
Yeah. So it gives him somebody on the other side that can kind of free him up, and maybe he will become what he kind of was in on the Texans. I thought he was mediocre at best, but again, we'll see.
I think it's a good move for them. I think it's like you said, it's a no risk move.
And they went all defense in the offseason.
Well, because if he sucks, it's no loss for them. It's a 1 year deal. It's not like they invested a lot of money in him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's across from Garrett. Now, for the first, I don't want to say for the first time, but, well, yeah, honestly, I still say this. For the first time in his career, right, when he was in Houston, when he was in Seattle, when he was in Tennessee last year, when he was playing, when he was healthy, he was the primary guy on that defensive line every time. Now he's not. Yeah. So if there's going to be a double, it's not going to be on Jadeveon Clowney. It's going to be on Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
So he's going to get one-on-one coverage, pretty much. So he is a little older. He's had a series of injuries. I would bet the house that he's not going to play all 16 games.
Oh, without a doubt, he's not.
But I think in the games that he is playing, and yes, you're right. They did go heavy defense, and I think their secondary got a lot better with Josh Johnson and John Johnson, and Troy Hill. They still have Denzel Ward there.
Well, that's what they needed to do, Joe. They knew that they were good on the offensive side of the ball. They're going to get Odell Beckham back. Whether you believe he's going to help that offense or he's going to make them regress a little, that's to be seen, I guess. And they knew that they needed to go heavy defense.
Listen, we know the Browns. We know what their MO is, the Browns. They're a team that needs to run the football well to have any success on offense. If they're not running the ball well, they're going to struggle.
Of course.
And that's why that their offensive line is still intact, and that's why that their running backs are still intact, because they're the focal point of that offense. Mayfield is as good as the running game is. That is simple. I will put the Joe stamp of approval on that right now. That is what they need to do.
He's one of the best play action quarterbacks in the league.
Yes, when they're running effectively, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, and it is too. I think they probably feel like they scored enough points last year to beat Kansas City.
Yeah, they had him dead to rights.
And it was a Chad Henne third down run that really set them up to fail.
Yeah.
In that game. So, we'll see what happens there. I think I don't think for a team like the Browns, it's no risk. And did you see what Clowney said, which is the crazy thing?
No, I didn't see.
He said the reason he came to Cleveland is because he wanted to go to a franchise that wins.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
What a world we live in.
Yeah. Now we're going to Cleveland.
A world we live in.
I mean, but you know what the truth was, honestly, Joe? Didn't have any suitors.
Probably. I think that's accurate. I think there was a couple of teams that might have shown interest, but I think that's
He
pretty
took
accurate
one
for the
meeting.
most
It was
part.
Cleveland.
So, let's then head over back east into Foxborough now, where one of the best wide receivers of our generation has retired. Unfortunately, due to multiple knee injuries,
So, yeah,
he's had to
that.
retire. But Julian Edelman, the former 7th round pick out of Kent State, former quarterback from there, retires and played his whole career in New England with Tom Brady, won 3 Super Bowls, is a fantastic postseason performer. John, give us your brief description on the career of Julian Edelman.
I'll sum it up in one thing, Joe.
Okay, talk to me, baby.
He has the second most receiving yards and I believe receptions in the playoffs. I could be wrong about that, but it's one of those that he has the second most to only Jerry Rice.
Well, he's been there every year for his career pretty much. So that would make sense.
That offense went where Julian Edelman went.
Be careful what you say there.
Joe, after Wes Welker, he filled in the shoes of Wes Welker.
Yes, 100%.
And Gronk was not always healthy.
No.
So Julian Edelman was always there for Brady.
It was Brady's security blanket.
Yes,
absolutely.
and it was always the same play, right over the middle, that slant over the middle, the pick by Gronk to Edelman. It was the same play. They ran that play 85 times.
I'm with you there.
Super Bowl MVP.
Yes, Super Bowl MVP. Now, let me ask you though, right? He's eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2026. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Yes. Without hesitation.
Without hesitation.
Without hesitation, he's a Hall of Famer.
Interesting.
When you're second to only Jerry Rice in playoff receptions and or yards, that's one of
I
those two
don't
stats
think
again.
it's a slam. Let me ask you. I'm going to ask you a couple rapid fire questions.
Oh boy.
Okay.
I love when Joe asks me stuff that I didn't prepare for.
Is he a better receiver than Chad Johnson?
Yes.
Is he a better receiver than Hines Ward?
No.
Okay. Is he a better receiver than Jimmy Smith?
Yes.
You're wrong in that. You're wrong in there. He's not, but okay. The 3 of those guys are not in the Hall of Fame. All 3 of those guys are not in the Hall of Fame. And at least
Chad Johnson, that's a if you're gonna bring up Chad Johnson, I mean it's kind of like T.O. Chad Johnson wasn't liked by the league.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Was Julian Edelman better than Chad Johnson overall in his career? Because all 3 of those guys I just mentioned to you all have better regular season numbers than Julian Edelman for their careers. Every single one of them.
To me, it comes down to the playoffs, Joe.
If it comes down to the playoffs, then guys who were in the playoffs for a year should be in the Hall of Fame and not regular guys who never went to the playoffs.
He did have good regular season numbers, though.
He
was
did, but the
consistent.
3 guys that I just mentioned all have better numbers than him. And Jimmy Smith deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but that's a joke, within itself. But if we're going to say that Edelman's a Hall of Famer, then we have to be ready to say that Hines Ward's also a Hall of Famer. We have to be ready
I
to
think
say
Hines
that.
Ward is a Hall of Famer.
And and whether he is or not is up for discussion. But the reality is, if and this is not up to us, obviously, but if the Hall of Fame thinks that Julian Edelman's a Hall of Famer because he played in a lot of playoff games, and I'm gonna, who I'm gonna compare it to. I'm gonna do cross sports right here. I'm gonna compare it to Andy Pettitte, right? Andy Pettitte was a phenomenal postseason pitcher for the Yankees. Won 4 World Series, holds a lot of records for postseason history. I would say average to slightly above average pitcher in the regular season, not in the Hall of Fame.
Well,
for baseball.
he also had a PED problem.
Okay,
I mean, but so did Edelman. I mean,
okay, you're helping my case right now.
I am, but again,
I think he's borderline, and I think he falls just short. Personally,
yeah,
I do.
I mean, it's just what you also got to think he was part of the Patriots.
Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Then if you think that, if you were going to say no, then I was going to have an issue with what you were saying.
No, I do think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer. Eli Manning, his regular season, it goes along the same things. Eli Manning's forgettable regular season.
I think they're similar type of players, right? Because they both average to slightly above average regular season performers who have had really good postseason careers.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say one's a Hall of Famer, you got to say the other one's a Hall of Famer. I think he falls just short because I think it's about the whole package and not just the postseason.
Is Torrey Holt in the Hall of Fame?
Not yet. You can't put Edelman in before Torrey Holt.
No, Torrey Holt's got to go.
What about Reggie Wayne?
Reggie Wayne's a Hall of Famer.
Okay, he's not in yet. Not in yet. You can't justifiably put Julian Edelman in before those guys.
No, not before.
Will they be in? I would hope to Christ that they're in before Edelman's even an option. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No, he's not. I mean,
He'll have to wait his time.
Listen, there was debates that Calvin Johnson wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I don't think he was a first ballot Hall of Famer, but okay. He didn't play long enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, he was just dominant.
He was dominant. Wait a year. Guys who should get into the Hall of Fame first ballot are guys who have played, for me, who have played 10 to 12 plus years in the NFL and have done it throughout the 95% of their career.
There's only like 32 first ballot Hall of Famers, though.
Yeah, I don't know if Calvin. That's a separate conversation, but so that's all. So interesting take. I didn't know how you felt about Edelman, but I'm glad I know now.
Fantastic fantasy wide receiver.
Yeah, I drafted him this year and I got fucked.
Yeah.
So
he was a flex play for the last 8 years. It was fantastic.
I know, and the year I drafted him, he just the bed.
You were so hype about him.
I was. Drafted down. That was my two guys. I drafted Darren Waller in round 3. That fucking worked. And then I also drafted Edelman in round 8, and that did not work.
And then you traded me, Darren Waller.
Yeah, because my team got off to because my whole team got hurt in like week 3.
Oh man, I can't wait for fantasy season.
Need a
Sorry,
break.
this is totally a side note, but yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, I know you can't wait. Let's get to the third and final piece, and before
Earmuff warning.
I'm gonna just caution our audience right now. I'm gonna just put some parental guidance on this segment because John's about to start shitting on my franchise quarterback, and there's the table might flip at some point. You might hear some. John, I didn't even know about this till you brought it up to me, and you borderline ruined my day yesterday, so that's fine. But tell me what the fuck is wrong with Trevor Lawrence besides the fact that football is not everything to him and he just wants to be a regular fucking human being.
So let me set the stage for the audience.
Go ahead, set the stage.
I'm sitting outside of Qdoba enjoying a nice burrito bowl, rice, chicken, cheese. I don't know how everybody else has it. And I come across the Trevor Lawrence Sports Illustrated piece where basically Trevor Lawrence comes out and says he does the interview with his wife, soon to be wife.
Already wife. They got married already.
They are married. Oh. Mm-hmm. Wow. That you would know. They're doing the interview. Trevor Lawrence's dad was also interviewed. And basically what Trevor Lawrence says is that he doesn't have that chip on his shoulder that a lot of these guys have coming into the league. He can't manufacture it. He doesn't feel like he needs to. He feels like it's just he plays the game. He enjoys it. But it's not who he is. Like, it's not like the be-all, end-all for him. Then his dad comes out, and his dad says, well, Trevor could give up the game tomorrow and not care. Now, my argument to Joe of why I don't like this is because if this was said by any other quarterback in this draft, teams would be up in arms. The media would be up in arms. But because it's Trevor Lawrence, and you know what? It should hold more weight. Because this guy is one of the greatest quarterback prospects to ever come out of college. There's only a handful of guys that are Trevor Lawrence. It's Peyton Manning, it's Andrew Luck, and it's John Elway. Right? And now he's the fourth. I don't like hearing that. And I understand he's won at every single level. He's won in high school. He's won in college. He's never lost. You're going to a franchise, and Joe, no disrespect to your franchise, that has a history of losing.
None taken.
They are rebuilding, and he's not going to win right away. You don't just walk in.
No, they're coming off the worst season in their history.
You don't just walk in like he did at Clemson to a ready-made situation with a proven coach and go to the national championship. It just doesn't happen. So he's going to lose. So what's going to happen when he starts losing? And if you don't already have that fire, like he says he doesn't have, what happens then? And that's my argument. He already, like, I'm not questioning him as a leader. I'm not questioning him as a person. I'm not questioning his, you know what? I am questioning his love for the game in a way, because what happens when you start to lose? And this is what I want to know when somebody comes out and says that. Go ahead, Joe. Rip me apart.
I think everything you said was fair. I do.
Not what I was expecting.
But you said something that, you said if that happened to any of the other quarterbacks in this draft, they would get ripped apart. I'm going to ask you a question, point blank. Do any of those quarterbacks have the talent that Trevor Lawrence has?
No, it's far and away a gap.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Far and away, you say a gap. Right. Okay. So if he's won at every level, right? What chip could he possibly have on his shoulder if he's won at every level? He's never lost. He's always been the number one prospect at everything. He's always exceeded the expectations everywhere he's gone. Everywhere he's gone, he's exceeded the expectations that were already set extremely high. Okay? He's got a fucking life outside of football. Kudos to him, right? He's got a wife. He has his family. He has, I don't know if he's a religious guy. I think he is. So he's got his church. He's got football, right? So there are so many guys in the NFL that live, breathe, eat, football, right? And you know what they win? Dick. That's what they win. They win a fucking large chode is what they win, okay? So this guy, all right, is going to come to a franchise who, like you said, has historically lost, okay? And I'm telling you now, he's going to make them immediately better off the bat. Like they will, the day he walks into the building, they're better than at any point last year. Any point last year, they are immediately better. He's coming into a coach who has historically won everywhere he's been. Now, I'm not going to say he's not going to win at this level, but up to this point, he's won everywhere he's been. So the correlation between Dabo Swinney and Urban Meyer is very similar. Lawrence is walking into a situation with a proven coach, right? Granted, Meyer hasn't won at the NFL level. Hasn't been there before. But he's won wherever he's been. So it's got to count for something.
It does count for something, Joe, but Urban Meyer is...
And also, at the end of that article, he says he wants to be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. So that's what he says at the end of the article. There was the piece of the article where it said it was his high school coach who said he took him in and he was like, "What are your goals for this year?" And Lawrence says, "I don't have any goals." So then the high school coach says, "Okay, what do you want?" And he goes, "I want to be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game." And that was it. That was it. So what more could you want from a guy who wants to be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game? If it just comes so fucking naturally to him, just let him go out and play.
But that's a weird thing because it's like, all right, it comes very naturally, but it also... boredom could come naturally.
Boredom could come naturally too. But you know what, John? If he wins a Super Bowl for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we're not talking about the San Francisco 49ers here. We're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? You're a Minnesota Viking fan, okay? Vikings have never won a Super Bowl, okay? If Trevor Lawrence came to the Vikings and was there for 4 years, he retired. But in year 2 of that 4, he won a Super Bowl. Would you be pissed if he retired in year 4?
No, he'd be a legend to me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So what are we really talking about? If he wins at any point, and you know what? Jacksonville's such a small market place that I'm telling you, he doesn't even have to be a Super Bowl champion to be revolutionized in that city. He has to make them a consistent winner for them to be taken seriously by the rest of the NFL. I'm telling you, that is what the fans of Jacksonville want. They want to finally be in the conversation every year as a perennial playoff team that just has a chance. Because any fan of any team that's never won anything, I'm a fan of teams who've never won anything. I root for the fucking Mets. I root for the Knicks. I root for the Jaguars, okay? My history is piss fucking poor. I don't root for the New York Yankees. I don't root for the New York Giants, all right? My father didn't bless me in that way, okay? He blessed me with the goddamn Mets and the Knicks, all right? I picked the Jaguars on my own, but if he had it his way, I would have been a fucking fan of the Jets. So it really wouldn't have been much better. So I'll take anything I could get at this point. If this was an article and he was going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'd agree with you. I would agree with you. And I'll even give you my biggest gripe with that whole article is that when he starts to lose, because he will, if they're playing the fucking, Rams in week 1 of the season, they're probably going to lose that game by 20 plus points. Right?
Yeah.
He's going to lose more than he's ever lost in his life this year. Ever. He will lose more than he lost ever in this year. And you know what? There's something about his maturity, about how he is not going to
overcompensate.
Overanalyze every week about losing. You know why? Because that doesn't help the situation. You compared him. You said something about Josh Rosen the other day, right? Didn't you say something about Josh Rosen?
When I was texting you about Josh Rosen.
Right. Now, and I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, some of these guys, even a guy like Sam Darnold, right? A guy like Sam Darnold who perpetually has lost since he got drafted.
He lost at USC.
Right. But he lost perpetually since he got drafted. You know, like that takes a toll on guys, right? It might not take a toll on this guy because he's got other things around him. He doesn't live, breathe, eat, and sleep football.
I know. The only reason
it's not a terrible thing.
It's not a terrible thing.
He's a human being.
Of course, these guys aren't machines. But
okay, but we're trying to say that to win a Super Bowl, you have to almost be a machine.
Not necessarily, but it alarms me when quarterbacks, like I said, like Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen had all of the tools to be a successful quarterback.
Also never got a fair shot, though. Let's be serious.
He really never did. But Josh Rosen had all of the tools to be successful, and he didn't care. And he outwardly didn't give a fuck.
Right, but John, some guys are content with being a backup quarterback. They're content. They just want to make money.
Yeah.
You know, Lawrence knows he's coming in. He's going to start right away. He knows he's going to get 5 years to prove his shot. He knows. And you know what? He's good enough where on his worst day, we say about Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck didn't eat, breathe, and sleep football.
No.
He loved the game. Right? I don't think we're questioning Trevor's love for the game.
No, I was a little bit.
We're questioning his competitiveness. Is that right? At the
crux of it, yes.
At the core of this, we're questioning his competitiveness. And I'll tell you what, you know why we're questioning his competitiveness? Like we said before, he's never lost anywhere he's been. I guarantee you, when he starts to lose, he's going to care a little bit more about winning.
And then that shit might come. That shit might come.
I mean, look at what happened to Jalen Ramsey when he went to Jacksonville, right? Don't everybody remembers the year where the Jags went 2-14 or 3-13, and everyone remembers Ramsey crying on the sidelines because he's never lost that much in his life. The next year they were in the AFC Championship game. The next season they were in the AFC Championship game. So I don't want to hear the bullshit. Okay, the kid is going to be very good. Let me rephrase that. There's no guarantee he's going to be very good. But if you're a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm going to keep saying their full name because the team that everybody forgets when you say, "Oh, can you name all 32 NFL teams?" That's the team they forget. Is my team, okay? So can we give them a break for once? The national media is praying to the football guys that Trevor Lawrence comes out and says next week that he doesn't want to go to Jacksonville. They'd cream their pants if he went to the Jets. And I can't wait to stick it to Chris Sims that he put Zach Wilson first on his fucking big board.
Who pays attention to him anyway?
Enough people. He's got about 200,000 followers on Twitter, so people care.
Just come follow us. We're way better than Chris Sims anyway.
I mean, what the fuck? It's Trevor Lawrence. Can we calm down for 1 second? Let the kid play a snap before we start criticizing his career that hasn't even started yet or ended? I'm done.
Joe's leaving. We're not doing the rest of the pod. We're
break. Coming back right after this to do our wide receivers and our cornerbacks. Perfect spiral. All right, we're back.
Joe took a cold shower.
I took a mental break really quick because I get very defensive about my quarterback, okay? And watch, I go on this whole rant and they'll draft fucking Justin Fields first overall on April 29th. And I'll literally jump out John's window and just fucking paralyze myself the rest of my life.
I shouldn't be laughing. That's terrible. No,
it is funny. It is funny because only an insane person would do that for fucking football. But this is our draft. This is our draft series. So we should probably get to the draft portion of this episode.
It might be a good idea, Joe.
So let's hit up the wide. Let's hit up the skill positions of the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the corners. And if you've followed along and you've listened to the show, you know exactly how this is going to go. There will not be a mock draft today, but John and I are going to do. I think we're going to spend the majority of the next episode doing a very prolonged mock draft. I would say maybe 2 to 3 round mock draft.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long one.
Yeah, it's going to be a long mock draft. But let's do our countdown, 5 to 1. John, we'll go to you first. And who you want to start with, the wide receivers or the tight ends?
I'm gonna start with the wide receivers.
Start with the wide receivers. Yeah. All right, have at it.
All right, so I'm gonna give you my top. I'm gonna give you 5 to 1, like
Right.
Joe likes to do. He doesn't like to go 1 to 5. He likes to go 5 to 1. I'm gonna go 5 to 1.
Do the build up, bro. Do the build up. Build up's better.
After I do the countdown, I'm gonna highlight a couple of guys on my list. So my number 5 wide receiver coming out is Rashad Bateman.
Minnesota.
Yes, Minnesota.
Okay.
My number 4 wide receiver, who I think in any other class would be drafted very high. I do have a first round grade on him. Is Kadarius Toney out of Florida? My number 3 wide receiver. Now this is up for debate because a lot of people have him number 2. My number 3 wide receiver is Jalen Waddle.
Okay.
My number 2 wide receiver is the Heisman Trophy winner out of Alabama, just like Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith.
Devontae.
My number 1 wide receiver, we haven't seen him in over a season because he opted out, is Jamar Chase out of LSU.
Number 1 is undisputed to me.
Yeah, it's undisputed. Jamar Chase, I'll start with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is an absolute physical freak. He's one of the most polished wide receivers I've seen in a while. This guy could do it all. He's deep threat, excellent route runner, very, very physical at the point of the catch. We just haven't seen him in a long time. We haven't seen him in over a year. But he was electric for Joe Burrow. I think he had over 20 touchdowns that year. They won the national championship.
I believe he did, yeah.
Yeah, his numbers were absolutely absurd. He gives me and I've seen this comped in a couple of like other things I've read, is he does remind me a lot of Devontae Adams, which isn't a bad thing.
Really?
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Devontae Adams. I mean, like Devontae Adams is physical, big body guy. I mean, Chase is the undisputed. I mean, Chase he's one of those guys that could be the number 1 player in the draft class.
I have him as my number 2 player in the draft class.
He's up there. He's absolutely excellent.
Devontae Adams is a good comp, though, I think, for him.
Yeah,
I do.
They're about the same size, physical, and excellent route runners.
I like your top 5. I would change one thing about it.
What is that?
And I would take out Rashad Bateman, and I would put in Terrence Marshall Jr.
Terrence Marshall Jr. is good.
I really like Terrence Marshall Jr. a lot. I think if I had to rank him, it's funny. You put Smith at 2, and I like Smith, and he's been productive, but his size just scares the shit out of me, man.
Let me say this.
Scares me.
I was going to talk about Devontae Smith next. There's no denying his skill set. The guy is incredibly productive. He constantly got behind the coverage. Nobody could cover him. He was a man amongst boys. Like he was unbelievable last year.
Right.
And most of the season was played without Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle was lost to the ankle injury, which we'll get to that next. Devontae Smith he was productive, but yes, the size is a concern. Very skinny, very lanky receiver.
Yeah, like he get hurt easily, I feel like.
He's long. The
Right.
Marvin Harrison comp is good. I've seen that in a few places as well.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
But he can do it all. And if we're just talking about his size, I mean, he's not. Obviously, there's a disparity between him and somebody like DK Metcalf. I mean, and there's a disparity between him and the rest of his draft class.
He's not going to bully corners. He's going to beat them. He's not going to beat them with his size. He's going to beat them with his speed
and finesse. Yeah,
right. That's how he's got to beat them. So if his legs are not up to par, meaning health wise, then he's almost rendered useless. You know.
He needs to be with another receiver, I think.
I had that at Alabama, that's for sure.
So I think he needs to be with another receiver.
And if we're thinking where he's going to go, he won't have that other receiver. Like if he's in Philly or Detroit, he's not going to have that other receiver. Yeah. He's going to be the main guy.
Who'd be nice in New York?
The Jaguars? The Jaguars. Listen to fucking me. The Giants.
The Giants, yeah. With him and Kenny Galladay?
Yes, I agree. I don't know if he'll be there, though.
Yeah, probably not. I think he'll be gone off the board by then.
Where do you think he goes? You think he goes 7 to Detroit?
Well, Chase is going to be the first wide receiver off the board.
Well, Chase, yeah, but okay, so Chase goes 6 to Miami, right? Yeah. Or 5 to Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's one of those two. And then you have...
Well, it's interesting. Actually, I'm sorry to cut you off, but if he goes 5 to Cincinnati, if the Bengals do the unthinkable and take the wide receiver over the tackle, right, and they take Chase, Miami could take Smith at 6, right?
Which would be great because he played with Tua.
Yeah.
Which I think that was always the idea.
Right.
And even at 3 in our early mocks, we had Devontae Smith to Miami.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, it really depends where he goes. I don't think he makes it out of the top 10. If he made it out of the top 10, I'd be shocked. He did very light work during the pro days because he's still coming off of a hand surgery.
I don't think he falls any lower than 12
I don't
to
think so.
Philly.
Yeah.
I don't think he falls any lower than 12.
He's a good player. It's just it's question mark sizes. And then the last wide receiver I'll highlight. I mean, Jalen Waddle. Really quick. I'm not going to go too deep into Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is a absolute speedster. Very very nice gadget player, just like the next person we're going to talk about. But again, haven't seen him. Ankle injury limited him last year. I'm a little skeptical about the ankle injury. But kudos to the kid for playing in the national championship game on a bum ankle and catching 3 passes on one leg.
Yeah.
So the intangibles there. And then Kadarius Toney, your guy who you want.
Tony. Yo, he'd be so good for that team. Fuck.
This guy's all over the field.
I know.
He's
you know who he
absolutely
reminds
incredible.
me of?
Who?
He was my comp for him.
Give it to me.
Percy Harvin.
Wow, I miss Percy. Percy was good.
Percy Harvin is my comp for him.
Percy Harvin, some good memories of Favre that year.
Yeah, Percy Harvin was great, but I think Tony could do it all, like Harvin.
Yeah.
Just put the ball in his hands.
And that's funny because they both played for Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
What the-
You imagine DJ Chark, Kadarius Toney, and Visca Chenault. Oh my God. And Marvin Jones.
It'd be insane. You'd have your own Tyreek Hill.
Oh my God. Give it to me.
And James Robinson in the backfield.
All day long.
I know.
And Pat Fryermuth.
Yeah, that's
It's a nice little segue into the tight ends, no?
Yeah, it is, definitely. Tight ends is a weird one because you could argue that, and we should have gotten into this with the wide receivers quick. I'm not going to go like super, super deep into the tight ends because the number 1 tight end is far and away better than everybody else.
Of course. He's the best tight end prospect to ever come out of college.
So, yeah, and the argument is that is he really even a tight end?
Yes, because of his size.
Yeah, but he's going to line up. Like
He plays as a receiver.
Yeah,
But he lines up as a tight end.
He's a second if he was.
He's a hybrid.
Yeah, he's a hybrid. He would be the second best wide receiver in the class.
But he can't be covered by a corner, which is why he's so dominant.
Yeah, and he's also just creates a total mismatch.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to count down from 5 to 1 of my tight ends. Hunter Long out of Boston College, my number 5. Tony Tremble out of Notre Dame. I actually saw a little bit of this guy.
Tony Tremble's not bad.
Yeah, really good run blocker.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame has a history with that. Like Cole Kmet came out last year. Number 3 is Brevin Jordan.
Out of Miami.
Yeah, Miami, Florida. We've seen a little bit of him. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
He is a big guy.
6'3", 245.
Jesus.
A monster. Number 2, Pat Freiermuth.
Pat Fryermuth out of Penn State.
Underrated tight end prospect.
Little injury history, though, with him.
Yeah, a little bit. Underrated, though, for sure. And my number 1 is obviously, sorry if you hear the dog, Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
Would be perfect in Atlanta, but he's not going to go to Atlanta.
You really think they're going to take a quarterback at 4?
I mean, yeah, quarterback's going to go 1 through 4. If they trade it back a little bit, then yeah. But Kyle Pitts, I mean, what's there to say about the guy? The guy is an absolute physical specimen. I will still comp him to Evan Ingram only because of his size. I'm not comparing their skill set. I'm just comparing their size.
I know what I'm going to compare him to, in a way, because of how dominant he was. Tony Gonzalez.
Wow. It's not a bad comp either.
That's what I'm going to compare. And there's a part of me
He ran a 4.3.
that it's ridiculous. I told you everybody ran a 4.3 this year.
Yeah.
Everybody runs 4.3. I want him, right? And now I know there is no world in where they should, or there is no world in where he even lasts to this place. But, if Atlanta really wants to trade the number 4 pick, I could so see the Dallas Cowboys trading up to 4 and taking Kyle Pitts.
That would be incredible.
I mean, they would still lose games like 50 to 49.
Yeah,
but that offense would be ridiculous.
It would.
Can you imagine putting Kyle Pitts with Dak, Zeke, Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup?
Joe, that offense would rival Greatest Show on Turf territory.
Oh, God.
I'm not even lying. It would be. Who do you cover?
Oh, my God.
Dak was on pace to throw for 38,000 yards last year. He'd be on pace for 50K. He'd be the highest passing quarterback of all time.
Now, like I said, there's no world in where the Cowboys should take a tight end. Not one.
Jerry Jones is too dumb to move up.
They need a corner so bad it hurts. But it would be fun to see them take him. I think he goes. There's no way he goes outside the top 10.
Nah. Top 5, top 6.
I mean, listen, if Atlanta does take the plunge, I mean, that's a really interesting offense too.
Yeah.
With Matty Ice, who's still got a couple. I don't care what anybody says. Matty Ice still has a couple of good years left.
You got Julio, Calvin Ridley, no running back.
Julio allergic to the end zone Jones.
One of the greatest wide receivers I've ever seen play the game.
Allergic to the end zone Jones.
It's not his fault that
Not
Matt Ryan is looking for.
Undraftable in fantasy football.
Oh, 100% undraftable.
Julio Jones. Do not do it.
Shout out to Nick Botetto.
Yeah.
You always draft Julio, and
Loves
it always
loves Julio.
it's on your bench constantly.
Loves Julio. But okay, Kyle Pitts, Pat Fryermuth, soon to be Jaguar. I really like Brevin Jordan though, like a lot. I think Brevin Jordan's going to be a good tight end in this league.
Yeah, solid player. Tight end class is not bad this year.
Tight end class is not bad, but historically with tight ends, as we say for a lot of them, and I think it's going to be the case for everyone outside of Pitts, tight ends tend to struggle in their rookie year.
Yeah.
Just if you don't believe me, just look at TJ Hawkinson from 2019 and 2020. Just look at the tape in 2019 and look at the tape in 2020.
It's taken way too high in the
Completely
draft,
different player. Same thing with Noah Fant. Yeah. Both are very reliable tight ends now, but in their rookie years, no thanks.
Yeah, not great.
No, thank you. All right, is it my turn?
It is. Let's go to the other side of the ball, Joe.
So we're going to go to the guys who are going to end up covering these receivers. And we're going to count down from 5 to 1, as we always do. And let's start out down south at the University of Georgia.
Oh, here we
and
go.
go to Eric Stokes, the corner out of Georgia. And Mr. Stokes lands at number 5. Stokes is a guy who I have not had time to put out comps for these. So I'm going to use the Draft Network comps for them. Draft Network has the comp for Eric Stokes as Josh Norman, interestingly enough.
That's not a bad comp.
I guess the reasoning is Stokes is better in the zone than he is in the man, for sure. He's an efficient tackler, but he's not very versatile. He's not a guy that could play slot corner. He's a guy that could only play outside corner. He's not overly big. He's 6'1". So he's not a guy who's going to like overpower you. He's got decent. He is good at creating turnovers. I will say that he's got good hands. And he can play man to man, but he's not great in man to man. His skill set is much better off in the zone.
Wow, sounds like Josh Norman.
Right, I know, right? Almost exactly like Josh Norman. He's 6'1", 185. That's his
solid measurements.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think he's going to end up going in the early second round.
Okay.
I don't know if he makes it into the first, but we will see. Number 4, I have my guy coming out of a former NFL player. I have Asante Samuel Jr. coming in at number 4 out of Florida State. Samuel is actually smaller than Stokes. He is 5'10", 184. He's a small guy. Samuel Jr., as I said, went to Florida State, played in the ACC. He can, unlike Stokes, much better in the man, and he could play both the outside and the slot. I think he ended up maybe being better in the slot over the course of his career than he is on the outside. But for Mr. Samuel, I will say this. He played more zone this year than he did in 2019. The results were not great. As we know, Florida State has not been really a good college school in a while. So he hasn't been that great. He's not, unlike his father, he's not great at, he doesn't have great hands. So he had, and from what I watched about him, he's had multiple times where he's had the ball come to him and just hasn't made the play. He's dropped. He's got a case of the dropsies.
He's got brick hands.
Yeah, he's got but I will say the one thing about him that I really like is he's an excellent tackler. Very, very good tackler. One thing, a lot of these corners these days, they aim high and they go for the shoulder pads for whatever fucking
They
reason.
tackle
I
with
don't
their
know.
fucking head.
He tackles the legs. You know why? Because they can't move if you tackle the legs.
Yeah, smart guy.
So, I mean, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to get drafted much higher than he's supposed to be drafted because of his name. I think he could definitely end up going in the first round, at the end of the first round. His comp they have is Brandon Flowers. Remember Brandon Flowers?
Wow.
Brandon Flowers was pretty good for a long time. Yeah. I like Brandon Flowers.
Definitely.
Number 3, I have Greg Newsome the second out of Northwestern. And Newsome is a guy who's actually rose over these past couple of months. He was not nearly as high as he was recently.
Excellent pro day.
Really good pro day.
Really good pro day.
Really, really good pro day.
Yeah, 46-inch vertical or something.
Oh yeah, I don't know his exact stats, but he was good. He's really good in both man and zone. So he's got both. He's a first round guy. He will get drafted in the first round for sure. He's got really good length. So he's one of those guys that you could see making a lot of like diving, like those plays where the corners bat down the balls.
Yeah.
And a lot of like I could see him doing that. He had 21 pass breakups last year in college, which is if you know corners, that's a lot. 21 pass breakups is a lot.
He's all over the ball.
Yeah, and he's very physical. He's gonna be a steal. Not crazy versatile, but he doesn't really need to be. He's a strict outside corner. Again, not a slot guy, which I think I think a lot of these guys that don't have homes, whether he plays here, plays there. We talked about Owosu Karamoa last week, who doesn't have a home. I think they tend to struggle in the beginning. If you have a guy that knows where he's going to be, he's going to be bound to he's bound to be more successful.
He's mastered his position.
And I think the thing more that a lot of people are going to like, he's really good in the run game.
Yeah.
His comparison I have is Sean Murphy Bunting, who was the corner last year.
Fantastic in Tampa.
From Tampa Bay, part of the NFL champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 2, I have another former pro son, Patrick. Actually, the last 3 of these 5 are former pro sons. Patrick Surtain II out of the University of Alabama.
He's number 2?
He is number 2. I believe he is the biggest corner at 6'1", 203. So he obviously went to Alabama, plays a 5-star recruit. He's absolutely phenomenal in press coverage. Oh my! I love press coverage. I hate when defenses play zone defense, so I'm a big fan of him a lot. I think he's going to be really, really good. Obviously, he was very well coached over at Alabama. But in his tape, one thing about him playing zone, if he's going to play zone, one thing which blows my mind, he always keeps his eyes on the quarterback, which is great. But then a lot of times I've seen him lose sight of the receiver.
That's not good.
And he lets the receivers get behind him. Only in zone though. Only in zone coverage. Not really man, which is why he's much better of man. He's excellent with ball skills. He's gonna have a lot of interceptions in his career. His tackling isn't great, but he's made strides to be better. So I could see that being not a thing that's immediate, but I could see it being something that definitely gets better over the course of his career. He can play the nickel, and he'd be a very big corner for a nickel cornerback. I don't know if he's going to suit well in the nickel. I think he's better off as an outside. I could definitely see him being a number 1 corner on a team in a couple of years. My comp for him more than anybody, and I don't know what the comp here is. I see the comp here. You're going to like this one. I think he's more of a Denzel Ward type.
Yeah. Okay.
NFL Draft Network have him as Nnamdi Asomugha is his comp.
Ugh, why did you have to say Nnamdi Asomugha?
You didn't like Nnamdi? He was great for the Raiders.
Yeah, because nobody threw the ball that way.
Yeah, well.
And then when they started throwing the ball at him in Philly, he was ass.
I think he's more of a Denzel Ward type personally.
Yeah. Can't believe he's number 2 on your cornerback.
Yeah, he's number 2. Number 1, J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. And mainly, J.C. Horn had a ridiculously good pro day.
Wow, Caleb Farley not in your top 5.
No, he's not.
Wow.
He's not.
Wow. That is a mic drop here on the Perfect Spiral.
Caleb Farley is not in my top 5. I think that back injury is going to be a real problem for him. I really do. And I think, he might, prove me wrong. But
I agree with you.
I think Farley's 6, honestly. If Farley is number 6. But I think, Farley is a guy who I think has his flaws.
Yeah.
The injury history is not great. He hasn't been playing corner for a long time. He's converted quarterback.
Yeah.
So, but Horn, Horn is 6'1", 205. So pretty much the same size as Surtain.
Outstanding pro day as well.
Amazing pro day. Phenomenal pro. That's what put him on the top. But another guy who's really good. But see, now this is the difference, right? Horn is very good in both the man and the zone. There's no weakness. Where I think Surtain has a weakness in the zone, there's no weakness for Horn in the man or the zone. He's better in the man, but he's almost equally as good in the zone as he is in the man. Mm-hmm. He's got really, really good ball skills. He's extremely physical. He's got all the tools. He's not afraid to come up and punch you in the mouth. Very Jalen Ramsey-esque with the tackling perspective. I will say that. The one thing that my one knock on him, and it's something that he could learn, my one knock on him is his football IQ. That's my one knock. Is that he's not the smartest player on the field. But I think that's the easiest teachable thing coming into the NFL.
You can't teach intangibles.
You could
knowledge.
You could teach knowledge. These guys are going to be going in June and learning in the classroom and doing. He's going to get better at that. He's going to be better.
And corners like tight ends. Some of them do take a little while to catch on. Like Jeff Okudah had a rough year last year.
Absolutely.
And I think he'll bounce back this year. But like he was one of those can't miss cornerback prospects, and he really.
You're going to like my comp for him, I think.
Hit me.
Xavier Rhodes.
I could see it. Rhodes was a very good corner for a long time. It still is pretty good.
I think his comp is Xavier Rhodes. I think he's going to be a really good corner. I think he's going to be a guy that really steps up. I think he's going to be a guy. I think you may see him struggle a little bit in the beginning of the year, but I think towards the end of the year you're going to see him. It's the difference.
He'll be dependable.
It's funny. It's like guys like Okudah and CJ Henderson who were both drafted in the top 10 last year. Were tall and lanky, right? Horn and Surtain, who I think are both better corner prospects than Okudah and Henderson, are just as big, maybe a little smaller, but they're bigger. So they're going to be able to stick with their receivers as much. And I think they're both better in man. I think, listen, if you can't cover receivers in man coverage, you can't be a cornerback. You cannot do it because there's going to be times in games where it's going to be 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. You're not going to be able to play zone on a much needed 3rd down stop. And you're going to need corners to dig in the dirt and go step for step with these receivers. Those two guys could do it.
Yep.
Those two guys could do it. I expect Horn. I don't know if here's a bold take, okay? I don't think any corner goes in the top 10. But I think 4 corners go in the first round.
Okay.
So between 11 and 32, you'll see 4 corners taken. And I think one of them is definitely going to the Arizona Cardinals at 16. I think one of them is definitely going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 24. And I think one of them is definitely going to the New Orleans Saints at 27. As much as I want the Saints to draft Zaven Collins, I think they're going to go corner.
Yeah. Well,
and if the Cowboys are smart, he'll go 10, but we're talking about the Cowboys here.
Jerry Jones.
Drafted
CeeDee Lamb last year, which was totally unnecessary.
But it was worth it.
Yeah, it definitely was in the end.
So that is week number 3 of our recaps. Just so you know, we have covered now quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defensive line, linebackers, corners. Next week, safeties and the offensive line are left. The only 2 positions left for us to cover before the NFL draft, which is on April 29th. So next week, John will cover the defensive side of the football with the safeties, and I will cover the meat and potatoes, the offensive line, the big boys. And the offensive line, I'll tell you right now, the offensive line is definitely, in my opinion, the strongest group of this class. Easily. I think the offensive line, there are about 10 offensive linemen who could go in the first round who are going to go in the second round.
Wow, nice tease, Joe.
I really think they're really, really good offensive linemen in this draft. When we come back, John and I will tease, not tease, we're going to announce the first big reveal of the show. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we're about to get out of your way, but before we do, we are going to break down, and I'm gonna hand this over to John. I'm gonna let John take this one.
Really?
John,
You putting all the pressure on me?
I'm putting all the pressure on you because you were the one that came to me about this, and we tweaked it a little bit, but I think it's gonna be something really fun. So why don't you tell the fans of PSP what we got going on from May to July?
So me and Joe have tinkered with a couple of ideas, a couple of things, to mess around with during that quiet time during the season. And what we've come up with, putting both of our ideas together, is the Legends series.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun. There's going to be new music.
Oh, nice.
New transitions.
Oh, shit.
It's going to feel like a totally different pod. What we're going to do is we are going to take the 11 greatest players, because there's 11 guys on the field, the 11 greatest players at every single position. And we're even going to throw in some current day guys who we feel might be in those top 11.
Absolutely.
And we are going to break them down and really dive into our greatest of all time at Perfect Spiral. So that is going to be from May to July.
Right.
It's going to feel like a totally different pod.
I can't wait. I'm psyched.
It is.
Can I have a request?
Go ahead.
Can we do head coaches too?
We could throw in head coaches.
I think that'd be cool.
Throw in teams.
Top 11 teams.
Top 11 teams.
Top 11
coaches.
franchises of all time.
We could do that.
That's juicy. I like that.
Yeah. So the Legend series.
The Legend series. We can't wait. It's gonna be really cool. We're gonna cover the draft the last week of April. And then the first week of May, we're going to be getting into the Legend series. It's going to be really, really cool.
So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be fun. We have our producer, Spencer, who, again, shout out, Spencer. You've been fantastic. Is working on new music, like I said, new transitions. It's going to feel totally different. It's going to be really fun. So
here's where I think the second part is going to come in. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on our Gmail. Perfect Spiral Pod at gmail.com. That's PERFECT SPIRALPOD at gmail.com, or at PSP Pod on Twitter. DMs or just add us, whatever.
Twitter and email are the best ways.
Tell us who you think or who you want to see on the Legend series. Current, past players, future players. No, I'm kidding. No future players. But, and I think we're going to start with, what are we going to start with, John? We're going to start with the quarterback. We got to
start with the quarterbacks.
But yeah, you don't want to say the quarterback for last? We should, right?
Maybe make people wait a little bit.
Yeah,
Let's start with the top 11 fullbacks of all time. Let's go.
No. I think we should definitely start sexy. Why don't we do the top 11 wide receivers of all time?
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking of my top 11, and I already know somebody's going to be ranked very high that you're not going to.
Randy Moss?
No, Randy Moss is up there, but
Yeah, of course Randy Moss is up
Julio's definitely up there too.
Oh, stop. We're going to say this. But yeah, guys, that's what we got. We got the Legend series coming out in May, so be on the lookout for that. John, you got anything else before we head out?
I got nothing, man. This was great.
Yeah, listen. Episode 3 of 5 of the NFL Draft Series has been completed. Again, before we go, make sure that you hit us up on Twitter, on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube, on our Gmail account. Make sure you're contacting us. Make sure you're listening to the episodes. We want to hear what you have to say as fans. At PSP Pod, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Deezer, Buzzsprout. 5-star reviews, ratings, the whole 9. Give it to us all over the place. We want it.
And we want to hear from you.
We want to hear it from you. And make sure we are going to put, again, we put it on, but we're going to put it on again. If you haven't looked at the SI article, the SI Live article, please do. If you want to know a little bit more about us, this is a good opportunity for you to check that out.
Yeah, we'll put that out again.
We'll put that out again. We'll pin it to our profile. This way it's there. But I think that's it. So until next week, if you feel strongly about Trevor Lawrence, let us know, because I'll go to war with anybody about this. But for John McCarthy, my name is Joe Miglio. Episode 8 of Perfect Spiral has been completed. See you next week. Perfect Spiral. Out.